Hello, America. Welcome to the Voice of Freedom Radio, the voice of rural America and the state of Jefferson movement, which offers you liberty and freedom. Our studios are located in Alturas, California, right in the heart of Modoc County. Our environmental message is the 3C's plan: clean air, clean water, and yes, common sense. We cherish our Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. We will not give up our God, guns, our property rights, or any of our freedoms. Our radio program can be heard on KCFJ AM 570 every Saturday at noon, right after Rush Limbaugh, or visit our website, thevoiceoffreedomradio.com. That's again, thevoiceoffreedomradio.com, to keep yourself informed. I am Doug.
And I am Ross.
Ross, have you noticed there's more room in our studio today?
I sure do. Unfortunately, Tony's off on special assignment today, so we have a little bit more room and a little less garlic.
But we sure do miss him because he's a very, very important part of the Voice of Freedom Radio. You want to comment on our last Saturday's program?
I do, Doug. I want to take the opportunity to once again thank Mr. Mark Baird for the information he gave us on the Klamath River project and the dam removal information. It's really amazing how devious certain entities are in their attempt to remove dams from the Klamath River. It's the American Rivers Group, along with National Fish and Wildlife, have attempted to circumvent their moral and legal obligations to do as the taxpayer wishes and instead do what they darn well feel like doing with the dams and the Klamath River.
Well, you're right, Ross. And you know, for some time on this radio program, we've been explaining to the people why they want to take them dams out, what they want to do to us. And I think right now, basically, due to the secrecy of all of these meetings that between the state of California and the state of Oregon and the Interior Department, headed up by none other than a nice jewel, Sally Jewell, remember?
Oh, yes, I remember Sally Jewell.
Oh, I remember her too, yeah. She's all tied up with a sage grouse, but we ain't going there.
Not today.
Not today. Explain to us, Ross, what is happening up there in that Klamath River. And
when the various groups involved with the Klamath River improvement and the removal of several dams on the Klamath and Scotts Rivers, when they found out that the American people weren't exactly happy about it, and they became scared that the American people would find out that monies allocated for water and water improvement and water bond money is being used for other than water purposes, they decided, that's the group that wants to remove the dams, decided that they better exclude the taxpayer from the meetings so that they can do as they feel like doing and create their own projects without the consent or the knowledge of the taxpayer.
well, let's just set it up like a football field, Mr. Ross Jones. And right down the middle of the 50-yard line on the one end of it is the governor of the state of Oregon, and that's another Brown, but that's a lady.
No relation that we know of.
Okay. Now, on the other end of it is the governor of California, which is Jerry Brown. and they're right there at the 50-yard line, and they want to take and have secret meetings and maybe turn this to a shell corporation to where that the federal government is, they're gone, and these people can set up this shell game, and I understand and do what they want to do and to take them dams out. And
well, one of the major issues is quite simply the fact that the United States Constitution disallows any financial joint ventures between two states, Oregon and California in this case, without Congress's approval. And of course, so far, nothing has been submitted to Congress on this Klamath River project.
Well,
the problem is, quite simply, that Article 1, Section 10 requires that the United States Congress become involved. And to that end, California congressman stepped in and said, wait a minute. This is not an above
the board
movement. It is a secretive movement, and it needs to be brought forward and into the light of the taxpayer.
It's great, though, that somebody really went and found out about these meetings and attended these meetings, and they're opening the door, let the fresh sunlight shine in, and the only thing they're seeing inside is corruption, because what the state of Oregon and the state of California is doing, and what they've done in the past, because in the past, when they want to take these dams out, and they provide enough electricity for 77,000 homes. The dams are the J.C. Boyle in Oregon, Copco 1, Copco 2, the Iron Gate Dam in California, and the Iron Gate Fish Hatchery. And you know that anybody that got power in Oregon off of those PPL and dams, they had to pay a surcharge. And the same thing in California. Where is that? Have you got any indication where that money's gone?
Prop 1 money? But it went into the general fund.
No, we're talking about the money that they was paying on their electric bills.
In the state of Oregon.
And the state of California, too. Because we brought on this radio. People in Cedarville, people in Alturas that's on PPL. They had a surcharge put on there, and that was to go to help take out some of these dams. And according to what the state has mentioned, the figures, some of that goes up as much as $200 million. What say you?
Well, let's see where the money went. Right now, we don't know where the money went or is destined to go. But more importantly, let's take a look at the reason for removing these dams. The reason, or this quote-unquote logic, is to improve fish wildlife. The salmon, the coho, the Chinook salmon on the Klamath River. Folks, when you remove dams, you're also removing the fish hatchery. Makes a lot of sense to me, doesn't it, Doug?
Hey, I'll tell you, it's terrible. But the thing is, when you remove dams, that removes water storage. And California was in this worst drought in 4 years or 5 years here. And I can't imagine if you take 4 dams out on a river and there's no water storage. How can you get more water to the farmers and ranchers up there in the KBRA area, up here around Klamath and that area? What happens when the drought that we've had, there's no water in the river, hardly to speak of, and it runs all the way down into the ocean, and here comes the salmon up. They're worried about the coho and the other salmon. And if the water's hot, what's going to happen to all of them people, all them fish in that river? They're going to die.
Before they even have a chance to get upriver. But another aspect, Doug, and you know as well as I do, that when the dams are removed, there's a lot of sediment that's built up behind those dams for how many generations? What's going to happen with all that sediment? It's going to try to go downriver. But when it finally reaches some sort of a natural blockade, it's going to function as a dam once again. And what's happening, or what will happen to those homesteaders, those ranchers and farmers that are upriver of that new natural dam, they're going to be flooded out.
Well, that's one of the reasons why that they put them dams in over there on the Klamath, was to prevent flood damage on that lower Klamath River. But the problem is, there's people somewhere in this country that understands that.
Well, we'd like to know where. But more importantly, Doug, it's time to apply a little common sense.
Oh, what'd you say?
Common sense.
Did you hear that, folks?
I think my good friend Ben Franklin mentioned that once.
Well, I never did talk to him, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, Mother Nature, being the mother of this earth, has good reason to build its own dam and to back up its own water. We simply, as human beings, we simply decided that we would prefer to create dams in specific areas. This is what was done, and it was done to the benefit of the masses, the human beings, along those rivers.
You know, Ross, I think that we ought to bring up something to the listeners out there in Oregon, Northern California, and listening to our voice. Some of the facts that their own government is doing that don't make sense. Prop 1 was a water bill that just passed, and the governor and his environmental cronies were pushing this, a $7.5 billion tax on the people of California, where they would have to pay back $660 million a year for 40 years. At the same time, Ross, what is he also wanting to do on the Klamath with the state of Oregon?
Well, they also felt that it was necessary to put a special fee on the power users that were supported by those dams and generation plants, and utilize that money as well as part of that $7 billion to remove dams.
So he went around crowing like a barnyard rooster that ain't got no sense and wanted the people to buy into a $7.5 billion tax bill because we needed more water storage. And at the same time, he wants to take $200 to $250 million of that Prop 1 money to take out and tear down 4 legitimate good dams supplying power again to 77,000 people.
Well, Doug,
this guy is...
Let's fast forward to today, when the powers that be realized that we, the taxpayer, were not exactly supporting this effort. They decided that maybe it's time that they do things in secret.
Yeah, we described that in secret, but that just tells the people out there listening to us, can you really trust your government?
Well, I think the answer is obvious, don't you?
I certainly do.
We cannot trust those with a particular agenda to do what's best for the taxpayer.
If you noticed, like I have, and we've been here for going on 5 years, Have you noticed that starting back in about 1980, the fact is that we didn't have any problems like this until them environmentalists showed up, the blackback woodpeckers,
Well,
the pikas, and all of them people, this is an environmental movement that they're doing in that Klamath Basin. And if they get by with that, we're done because.
Well, Doug,
go ahead.
Let me just clarify one point, and that's environmental movement. Right now, what we see are those who wish to line their pockets by creating, quote, environmental movement, unquote. They don't care whether or not it grows tomatoes in Fresno. They don't care whether or not we have salmon running up the Klamath River. All they care about is creating a smoke screen and lawsuits that line their pockets.
You remember that old saying? Money flows to water? Or what?
Water flows to money.
Oh, I'm going downstream, folks.
Rapidly.
Rapidly. It's all about the money.
That's right. And take a good look at agriculture in general. It wasn't too long ago that a lot of Arizona, western Arizona, was desert.
Yeah, I understand that. But you know what? There was a article in the Western Reporter out of Billings, Montana.
Oh, you read that?
I take that paper.
I didn't know you could read.
Well, folks, he told you one of my secrets.
He had it read for him, folks.
Yeah.
But more importantly, when we sell our land and our water to foreign groups,
governments,
are we working in the best interest of the American citizen?
Well,
I'll let you answer that.
Good. When we travel from here, from Alturas up to Klamath, we go up on 139, and there's a lot of alfalfa fields up there. There's a lot of ranchers that's born, bred, and raised here. They're good American citizens. They want to make their country great. They want to farm. They want their children to live in a good, clean environment. And yet, the federal government is selling us all out because I raise alfalfa too. Okay?
Right.
They're selling us out. This article came again from the Western Reporter out of Billings, Montana, and the Saudis have went down into Arizona and bought thousands and thousands and thousands of acres into the desert down there.
But why, Doug? Why did they buy it in Arizona?
Well, they went down there to buy it because they wanted to raise their own alfalfa.
Why? The real reason, Doug, is they had consumed their water resources.
That's exactly what the article said. And they went down there and bought it, and there was as much as 15,000 acres in one spot. They had wells down there that would pump 1.5 billion gallons out of it. And when the Saudis are over there in that desert, you know what I mean, with the sand, you got to have a lot of water for alfalfa in the sand. You know that?
Oh, yeah.
And so what they did is they just went there because they got it. The water was in the aquifer. And what they're doing is now buying American land, taking the water and our water and raising the alfalfa, and then shipping it back to Saudi Arabia. And see, Saudi Arabia was one of the larger markets for the people all around Klamath Falls up there, here, all over California. And all over the United States. But they're not the only ones that's doing it too.
But think about it, Doug.
Uh-oh.
They used all of their existing water.
That's what they did.
So now they came to the United States of America and they're consuming our water to feed their cattle. Now, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it, Doug? For
Well,
the Saudi.
yeah, but there's more to it. The Chinese are doing the same thing. They're doing the same thing, and they're even in Arizona and the far west out here. They're also buying land in California. And yet, two of the largest markets for the locals' hay crops, the government is undermining us. And now we're sitting here with the hay that we can't sell, and the foreigners are here, and they're undermining the American rancher and American farmer.
Well, Doug, there's our listeners out there, some of them at least, would say, come on, folks, would our government really do that?
Oh, come on.
And I'll offer the suggestion that there are those in our government who would rather line their own personal pockets than care for the citizens and the taxpayers of the country they supposedly love.
Yeah, you're right on that. Ross, you know, as an old country boy, I sure hate to bring this up.
Oh, yeah, I can tell by the smile on your face.
Because I have to pay it too.
Pay what?
Well, I think it's called the SRA tax.
Oh, state regulatory fire exemption prevention.
It was in the paper. The fact is that they was going to mail them out to all the counties, you know, like starting out at the front, A, B, C, D, and all that.
Right. But, you know,
What?
they're saving money, Doug, because now CAL FIRE's hand delivering them with the inspection.
They are?
Oh, yeah. Haven't you seen CAL FIRE out on your property inspecting it, make sure it's fire safe?
Not yet.
Well, I hope it's never yet. But, folks, this so-called tax fee, whatever the politicians want to call it today, is arriving on our doorstep once again. $150 that's been mitigated down to $135 in the attempt to appease the taxpayer.
Yeah, but Governor Moonbeam, they put an increase on it every year.
Of course. They keep spending more each year. But how much of it really goes to support those firefighters that risk their life every summer?
I don't know about that. I don't think much of it. According to our friend Mark Baird, there's maybe a couple $1 million or more, but other than that, I don't know what Moonbeam does because we're so far in a hole now, you know?
Well, it's a proven fact that it's the SRA fee or tax or whatever it's called currently is illegal. And sooner or later, the state of California is going to have to figure out what they're going to do. But more importantly, today, CAL FIRE offers inspection of your lands, offers all kinds of excuses on why they should come onto your property, inspect it without a warrant. And that's where I have issue.
Well, tell us about it.
Inspection of my land, inspection of my property shall not be done without a warrant. That is the law.
Okay.
And
Well, how did this, this CAL FIRE has been going on now for 5 years, and they said they was going to do it again this year. And, that started out way back when. And I think that there's somebody down there in Shasta County that had their fingers in on that CAL FIRE tax. What say you?
well, the representative for supervisor, I should say, for District 3 Shasta County, Miss Pam Giacomini, was on a board in Sacramento under Governor Schwarzenegger.
That was the Forestry CAL FIRE Board.
Right. And she was charged, along with the other members of the board, with a way to pay for CAL FIRE expenses. And they decided that charging a fee would be appropriate. It started out in discussions of $150, and it was bounced all the way around from $75 to $200. Most importantly, it was decided that the fee would remain at $150. Point being is, when they created this fee, it was illegal as a fee. So they retitled it as a tax. And it turns out that it was illegal as a tax. Today, none of that money, or very, very little of the money, is going to the intended purpose.
And I do believe that they're going to be a lawsuit, because Howard Jarvis has got one on there. And a judge in Sacramento last year is supposed to give it this year a date to go to trial. I think the governor and his cronies realize that this is illegal. But the thing is, when it first started out, the head of the Forestry CAL FIRE Board wanted to tax the people up here at $90. And yet, Governor Brown wasn't happy with it. But yet, this lady still wanted an offer up $90 per the habitable structure of this. And, some people say, well, no, you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I beg to differ. We do know what we're talking about.
Well, she said that she wasn't for the $150, but yet she was for $90. So why would this person want to do anything like that?
Well, Doug, I can suggest that ignorance is bliss.
Well, I understand this lady is running for supervisor again this year, right?
Well, I don't know if you call it running, but
well,
she's got her name in the basket.
Well, she wants to be reelected. Let me clear it up. Be scientific, okay?
That's right.
Scientific. She wants to be reelected. But yet, to begin with, she wanted to tax her cohorts $90. Now, how can we say that? We got to have some proof.
Well, let's look at what the supervisor for District 3 has accomplished in the last 4 years, besides the SRA tax. That's a major accomplishment, at least for Sacramento it is.
Go ahead.
Those of you who reside in District 3, Shasta County, take a look around you. Have you seen any benefit? I suggest that there's very little, if any.
How about more jobs?
Jobs? In Shasta County?
Did I say a nasty word?
You did.
Excuse me, folks. I said a nasty word. Go ahead, Ross.
Jobs? If there are any jobs in Shasta County, there are darn few.
Well,
and they're darn sure not in the rural areas.
Well, first of all, we've made a statement that this lady wants to run for re-election. She wants to be reelected. And we made a statement that this lady, originally, when she's on that Forestry CAL FIRE Board, that she recommended $90. That's what we're saying, $90, okay?
Right.
Should we let the people know?
We should.
Here we go.
Forestry and Fire Protection has 9 members, okay? And I had been on it for 6 years. I was appointed by the governor. And so the state fire tax is a perfect example of a completely failed legislative process. At the legislature, they didn't deal with the budget as they should have. And so they, in the dark of night, with no public input, passed this fee mandating that the State Board of Forestry and Fire Protection pass this $150 fee, okay, by September 1st. So if we didn't do that, we were breaking the law, right? So at that time, we only had 5 members on the State Board of Forestry and Fire Protection because the governor had gone for months making no new appointments. People had turned out, one person moved out of state. So, only 5 of us there to do the work, right? So we actually put our heads together together and crafted a very fair fee. Okay? What the legislative language did was actually gave us some flexibility. So we capped it at $90. We made sure there was only one tax per parcel, okay? And then we gave people a series of credits. So if somebody does their defensible space, if somebody's already in a local fire protection district, all those things, they get a credit. So they get down to basically a $35 fee, which is very fair and reasonable.
Fee?
Tax. Fee, okay?
Thanks.
Yeah. And so we passed that, okay? Made the governor's office very, very angry. He immediately interviewed people who had applied for those vacant seats, okay? Went through, their very first question in their interview was, do you support a $150 fire fee? The ones that said yes were appointed. The ones that said no were not appointed. We know this for a fact because one of the members that was not appointed came to the Board of Forestry and explained this all to us on how the process worked, okay? So immediately, the very next meeting, those 4 new appointees were on the board. They rammed through a $150 fee. Multiple fees per parcel could happen. And I absolutely voted no because it was absolutely the wrong process. So no, I voted against the state fire fee, the tax.
The second one, the $150 one.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's fair.
Yep.
Doug, we've all heard Pam explain her reasoning behind the fee. So I think that's good enough for today. How about a commercial? It's about that time, isn't it?
Yeah, you better believe it. You're listening to the Voice of Freedom Radio. Our programs can be heard on KCFJ AM 570 every Saturday at noon right after Rush Limbaugh. Or you can listen to all of our recorded programs anytime by going to our website, thevoiceoffreedomradio.com. One more time.
thevoiceoffreedomradio.com. Doug, today is an anniversary date in a manner of speaking. Tell us about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, on the 26th of January, a true American patriot was killed. That's an easy word because you know what I'm saying, Ross?
I do.
This man was a walking example of the U.S. Constitution. He understood it. He taught it.
He lived it.
And he lived it. And they went into Harney County in Oregon and wanted to help out a rancher's that was
being burned out,
lied out, run out. And when they actually found out about where they was at and how deep the, shall we say, the corruption was, they was on their way to a John Day up in Grant County, Oregon, to talk to a constitutional sheriff. On the way up there, the state of Oregon really didn't want him to go there because he was providing information to some of the other ranchers up there that what was going on. And it was getting whole like a grass fire. They did not want his voice to be heard. He was in Oregon for, 41 days? He'd never fired a shot. The people that was in that refuge never fired a shot. And the local fire chief that was in there resigned because he caught FBI people in civilian clothes walking around town down by the armory.
Masquerading as protesters.
Yes. He was going to a constitutional sheriff. If you want to see that constitutional sheriff, you can go to our website, thevoiceoffreedomradio.com, and he's on there. He was here in April the 21st, 2012. He was right here in Alturas. His name was Robert Lavoy Finicum. Ladies and gentlemen, 3 months ago, a patriot that was fighting for all the ranchers and to spread the U.S. Constitution is no longer with us. So Robert Lavoy Finicum, when your hair has turned to silver, and on this earth no more you trod, may your name in gold be written and the autographed of God. Rest in peace, our brother.
So long, patriot.
We won't forget you. We're still fighting, and we will never give up. What say you, folks?
Doug, with that, I think it's time to say it.
From the land that you love and the God that created it, good day, America. Rest in peace, our brother. And to his family, to all the patriots, God bless each and every one of you. Please get off your chair, stand up, and speak up. It's only your freedom and your liberty. See you next week, folks. Same time.